You've probably never heard of GPR, the two times levers Brazil ETF from ProShares, but I think there's a real chance it could double in 2025. In this video, I'm going to show you why. If you're new here, I'm Ethan. I'm a CFA Charterholder and investment professional specializing in international and emerging market equities, and I've made a lot of money investing in Brazil through this ETF, UBR, before. These are my historical buys and sells. Of course, this is a high risk, high reward opportunity that definitely won't be right for everyone. And nothing on this channel is advice, but Hal and I started this channel to teach people how to invest. And one of my favorite ways to do that is by introducing you to opportunities to show you what I looked for and how I analyze them. So that's what I'm going to do here with UBR. My timing hasn't always been perfect, as you can see, and there's no guarantee I'll be right this time, but it's been pretty good up to this point. You see, Brazil is a very momentum driven market. Investor sentiment bounces from one extreme to another, but things are rarely ever actually as good or as bad as they seem at the extremes. And that creates opportunities. Right now, Brazil is trading at crisis level valuations, but they're not in a crisis, not even close. The stock market is trading at a level it's rarely been at in the last 20 years, more than one standard deviation below its average. 2024 was the worst year for Brazilian stocks compared to US stocks in at least 20 years. Worse than 2008, worse than 2015, worse than 2020. They trailed US stocks by more than 50% in 2024. Part of that was due to currency weakness. The Brazilian real fell more than 20% against the dollar in 2024, about the same amount as it fell in the 2008 financial crisis, the 2020 health and economic crisis, and 2015, which was Brazil's worst crisis and recession since before World War II. It's now at its weakest point ever at more than 6 reais to the dollar. The REIR, which is the real effective exchange rate, aka the exchange rate compared to its major trading partners and adjusted for inflation, is back near its low from 2020. The only other time it's been lower was in 2002 when there were crises all around Brazil, in Argentina, in Uruguay, and there were fears about the election of, you guessed it, Lula, who's president again now. That brings us to why the market has sold off so much lately. Just because it's down doesn't mean it's a good investment opportunity, right? It can always go down more. So we have to determine if we believe the reasoning is justified. There are a lot of external factors at play. The Chinese economy has been weak, so iron ore prices have been down, and Brazil is a big producer of iron ore. Trump got elected on the promise to drill more oil, which sent oil prices down, and Brazil is also a big oil producer. He also planned a lot of inflationary policies, which were expected to keep U.S. interest rates high, the dollar strong, and thus the Brazilian real weaker. And the tariffs would, of course, also probably not be helpful if they do come to pass. But mostly, it comes down to Lula, the Brazilian president. Lula was elected in 2022. He'd already been president for 2 terms from 2003 to 2010. In his first presidency, he expanded the welfare state massively during a commodity boom. That made him popular with the poor, but it also laid the groundwork for a major crisis in Brazil in 2015 as commodity prices fell and the spending became unsustainable. He also presided over rampant corruption and actually went to prison for it. And then in 2021, he basically got his convictions overturned by claiming the prosecutor was biased. That made him eligible to run again, but make no mistake, he was super corrupt and probably still is. As far as the financial markets go, his spending is the biggest concern, though. Markets are worried that he'll spend out of control, boosting inflation, tanking the currency, and leading to a confidence crisis. The central bank also then has to raise rates to defend the currency and cool down the overheating market, which further harms businesses and consumers. You can see the last few months, they've been raising rates while most other central banks in the world have been cutting them. 4 years ago, they were only about 2.5% higher than US rates. Now they're more like 8% higher. That's because investors are perceiving a much higher risk than we had before. But yet, it's not like inflation has been running away. It ended a year just under 5%. Yes, that's above their target of 3%, or the max of their target range at 4.5%. But it's nothing like it was for most of the last 20 years, and certainly not where it was in other crisis times like 2015 and 2022. We should also keep in mind that this is a relatively new inflation target. It was 4.5% for a long time, including under Lula's first and second terms. So to him, 4.5 to 5% inflation rate is pretty normal. The economy has been growing healthily too. In 2002, there was a recession. In 2008, there was a recession. In 2015 and 2020, there were recessions. But now, nope. Healthy 3+% growth projected for 2024 and another 2+% projected for 2025. How about Brazil's unemployment rate? It's the lowest it's been in over 10 years. So, where is this crisis you speak of? Is it the debt that's really that out of control? I mean, it's gone up this year, but it's basically just back to 2019 levels and lower than it was in 2020 and 2021. The central bank has plenty of reserves to defend their currency if they need to. And so to me, this just doesn't really feel like it warrants crisis level valuations. There's an election coming in 2026, and maybe some people are worried that Lula will spend even more to win favor with voters, which, to be fair, has kind of been the playbook in Brazil and many other Latin American countries for decades. But I'm not so sure. Let's think about it. His odds of being reelected have been falling a lot, and people's number one concern is inflation. He's literally trailing the guy that he just beat, who's now not even eligible for the 2026 election because he got caught trying to interfere in the last one. The way to improve his chances might be actually to be a little bit more pragmatic and restore confidence in the markets. He's also almost 80 and just had multiple brain surgeries related to a fall he had, so is he even really going to waterman again? Who knows? I think one of two things are likely to happen. Either Lula starts listening to his finance minister, voters, and the markets, and taking inflation and government debt more seriously, or the people will elect someone else who will. That's almost 2 years away, though, so could things get worse from here? Yes, this is by no means a safe investment. But in the end, I think that while there are legitimate concerns, and I could certainly paint you a picture of how it might go wrong, the current valuations don't nearly reflect the reality of the situation. Brazil is not in a crisis, but it's trading at crisis valuations. And to me, that makes it an interesting opportunity that I think has the potential to double in 2025. I've started a small position, and I'll look to add to it on further weakness as long as my thesis doesn't change. As a reminder, this is education, not advice. And hopefully you've found the information valuable in your quest to identify good investment opportunities of your own. If so, hit that like button, let us know what you'd like us to cover next, and subscribe so you won't miss it. And if you'd like to connect with my partner Kyle and I directly, you can do so by joining our Discord in the link below. We'll look forward to seeing you in the next one.